Railsim was developed around 1995 from what I can ascertain, and Jens Schubert, who developed it, then handed off to this simulator around 2000 or so when he released the final version of Railsim. This wasn't his work, actually, but it was a very similar German train simulator with accurate physics. It was developed by this guy, Carsten Hölscher, or at least he's the head of the project. I have the sense that probably more people have worked on this over the years. The newest version has much better graphics than the older version, which I'm actually going to play through here because there's a demo version of Zusi 2, and I'm going to drive a V160 diesel, or Deutschbahn Class 216, and you can see it's got a photorealistic cab, which actually the newer versions of Zusi don't have. But it has a lot of the same nice features as Railsim. Very accurate cab signaling systems, which I found in the playthroughs are actually too realistic, generally speaking. Really, you need proper instructions to use them. And without proper detailed instructions, you can't really wing it. It takes a very long time to learn what you're actually supposed to do if you don't have them. So I spent a few days trying to learn how to do this properly, and I'm still not 100% skilled in how to drive these trains. So I'm going to do a short playthrough here without any mistakes, or any major mistakes anyway, to show you what it's like. I generally like Zusi, although it could be argued that there are a lot of simulators developed since which are better. And by since, I don't mean in the last 5 years, I mean almost from the time it was released, because Jens Schubert started advocating it around the year 2000, and now it's gone through several versions, and it's on version 3, you know, as I said earlier, with much better graphics than this, but still not as good as Microsoft Train Simulator even, which is also from the year 2000, roughly. Trying to do things accurately, tooting the horn to go into the tunnel. One distinct feature of German trains that both Railsim and Zusi have is the SIFA system, which alerts you every 20 seconds. So you get a blue light on the panel there that lights up, and then you have to click the little button there by the wheel style throttle over on the left there, to keep the train's emergency brakes from coming on. And you get the same kind of alerter system for the cab signaling system, which is more conventional. But I've had a lot of trouble negotiating it this time. I mean, even though it's not so hard to use on Railsim, it is hard to use on Zusi. My sense is that it's much too reactive to respond to correctly, because by the time that you hit enter, the enter key, to acknowledge it, it's already too late. Which I don't even know if that's really accurate, because most of the time on most cab signaling systems they'll beep telling you to acknowledge. Certainly the Pennsylvania Railroad system worked that way. And the problem on this simulated version of cab signaling, by the time it's beeping, you're already in emergency, so you can't really respond. You can only really hit enter around the time you pass a more restrictive signal and hope that it receives it properly, and I don't think that's quite accurate. Here I like how you're pacing the AI train there over on the left. The train graphics are very, very crude in this, only slightly less crude than Railsim actually. But they do run. You do run into AI traffic all over the place in Zusi. And you have a very strict schedule to adhere to, as in Railsim. You can see why Jens Schubert liked this. It has a lot of the same nice features as Railsim, even though the graphics, can be said, are far better. The sound is far better. The sound is maybe the best part. Very convincing. Actually, there's a professional version of Zusi 3 that's now being sold to, I guess, railway training programs so that they can actually train drivers with it, which I find interesting. The graphics might be far behind a lot of other things, but the functionality of the cab signaling, if it's accurate, well, certainly very strict. Certainly teaches you pay attention and do everything correctly. Now, the braking system I also struggled with initially because I couldn't figure out what keys did what. The braking system used by Deutsche Bahn is actually very similar to the Westinghouse brake systems used by American railroads. The only major difference you could say is that it's a two-hose system, and that also it's in bars, not in pounds per square inch, which makes sense. But it's still basically the same settings, running, or what they call fart, lap, or middle, or mittel, rather, as they put it, and then you have your application settings. A full service application is 3.8 bars, a full release is 5 bars, brake pressure. And these brake gauges are somewhat confusing because the biggest gauge is the one measuring your airflow in or out of the system, which is not 100% useful. All it's really telling you is how hard you're putting the brakes on. And you can generally figure that out by the position of your brake lever. It doesn't have a standard Westinghouse gauge anywhere. And it's very easy to confuse the independent brake, which you can see there under the gauges on the right, with the main brake valve in the lower right-hand corner there. A lot of the cab view graphics are kind of poor, except for the Class 216. Because I chose the Class 216 because it had the nicest cab graphics. Which sort of defined Zusi 2 actually as a nice simulator. That it had some of the best cab graphics of any simulator in year 2000. Although this specific version, 2.9, is from 2003, actually. It's not from the year 2000. That's partly why it looks so nice. But even in the year 2000, they had very, very nice interior graphics, even if the exterior graphics are sort of a incremental improvement over Railsim, and certainly nowhere close to Microsoft Train Simulator or Train Master 4 or anything like that. This simulator is somewhat unknown outside of Germany because it's only available in German, and that even though I know a little bit of German, getting through the manuals and figuring out all the controls and instructions took some time. And if I wanted to do this properly, I would really do a proper study of the manual in German, memorize every signal aspect and everything else so that I wouldn't be struggling all the time. It is a little bit embarrassing that I've been messing around with both train simulators and real trains for so long, but I don't have all the German signal aspects memorized, and I don't understand some of the nicest simulators for the trains I like. This was where I chose to stop. I decided to just do one run between two stations. This is Bad Driburg, which is the first stop on this demo line. This is on the line between Aachen and Braunschweig. Braunschweig is where they're based with this. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.